When I discovered the microphone I once used to sing love songs was now in someone else's hands, I knew I hadn't just lost my voice. I'd lost the life I'd built. I lingered in the darkness off stage, struggling to catch my breath. The harsh spotlight illuminated Lena Carver, my partner of a decade, as she performed the melody I had written from the depths of my heart. My creation, my lyrics, my pain woven into every melody. The audience erupted, their cheers rolling like waves, each sound a dagger piercing deeper into my core. I dug my fingernails into my palms until they left marks, the pain anchoring me in this moment of turmoil. There she was, her golden locks shimmering under the stage lights, her voice reaching skyward, taking ownership of something that was never rightfully hers. And there I stood, a mere shadow in the wings, watching her claim my final possession. But here's the twist. This wasn't just another show. This was the beginning of her undoing, and I was preparing to change the narrative in ways she couldn't anticipate. Stay tuned, because this stage is about to ignite. Before we delve into this tumultuous tale, I'm curious about something. Where are you tuning in from? Perhaps you're nestled in your favorite armchair, or maybe you're cruising down the highway with a breeze in your hair. Send us a message and share your story. And if you're already captivated by this narrative, don't forget to subscribe for more updates. You won't regret staying for what's coming next. Now, let's take a step back. Imagine this scene. I'm Caleb Warwick, 34 years old, a musician and producer based in Nashville, Tennessee, the pulsing epicenter of country music. My brown curls are perpetually disheveled. My green eyes bear witness to countless sleepless nights, and my voice carries the roughness of years spent in smoke-filled venues and dimly lit recording booths. I first encountered Lena at the Bluebird Cafe, an intimate venue where aspiring artists like myself played guitar and sang for whatever the audience would give. One evening, I was on stage, my fingers dancing across the guitar strings, my voice deep and gritty as I performed a song I'd composed on a simple napkin. Then she appeared. Lena. She radiated presence, like a cover model stepping into reality. Her blonde hair flowed like silk. Her smile could disarm anyone, and her gaze held you captive as if she could read your thoughts. She approached the stage with confidence, asking to join my performance. I agreed, mesmerized, and when she began to sing, it was like witnessing natural forces collide. Pure enchantment. The venue fell silent, all eyes drawn to us, every person spellbound. That evening, we created more than music. We ignited something extraordinary. After my set, she gracefully claimed the bar stool beside me, her designer perfume a stark contrast to the bar's stale beer atmosphere. We lost track of time, exchanging life stories over bottom-shelf whiskey. She shared her journey from a small-town church choir to chasing her dreams of stardom. I opened up about my songwriting, how melodies had been my sanctuary since childhood, offering solace when life became overwhelming. In that moment, our shared passion for music created an undeniable connection. Something profound was taking shape, something that felt destined. Our collaboration became routine, spending countless hours in cramped practice rooms, our voices intertwining with natural precision. The creative process flowed effortlessly. I'd strike a chord, she'd improvise a melody, and before we knew it, we had crafted an impressive collection of songs that held genuine promise. Her unwavering determination reminded me of my own early days, before the industry's harsh realities had dampened my spirit. Her conviction in our potential was contagious, and I found myself believing again. The professional partnership gradually evolved into something more intimate. Subtle touches became lingering glances, until one fateful night beneath the flickering neon of a roadside motel, we crossed that invisible boundary. I believed we were forging both a musical and romantic future. I was only partially correct. Looking back, I missed the warning signs. I failed to notice how she craved the audience's attention more than our connection, or how she spoke of fame with an almost desperate intensity. I was too immersed in our seemingly perfect dynamic, the way our aspirations aligned like a well-crafted duet. Nashville's vibrant scene surrounded us, filled with guitar riffs and honky-tonk ambience, and I imagined we'd navigate it together. But there's a truth about passion. It can provide warmth and light, but if left unchecked, it can also reduce everything to ashes. And I, unfortunately, never learned to handle fire. After that night, at the Bluebird Cafe, Lena and I became inseparable, or at least that's what I believed. We immersed ourselves in the music, crafting something authentic and powerful through sleepless nights and relentless dedication. I would settle on our cramped apartment floor, guitar balanced on my knees, capturing lyrics on any available surface. Lena would wander the space, her voice exploring every tune I created, transforming my rough sketches into masterpieces. We were unstoppable, blazing through Nashville's underground venues and dimly lit bars. I poured my soul into writing about heartache, romance, and endless highways, weaving my essence into every chord. One composition, Whiskey and Rain, struck a powerful chord. When Lena performed it on a crowded stage that sultry evening, her voice piercing through the noise, it became an overnight sensation on local radio. The song's meteoric rise caught us off guard, and suddenly, she became Nashville's newest sensation. Meanwhile, I remained hidden in the technical booth, adjusting controls and watching our shared glory become solely hers. That's when things began to unravel. As Lena's star ascended, I found myself increasingly pushed into obscurity, blind to the subtle manipulation taking place. Red flags started appearing, subtle but unmistakable. She'd disappear after performances, her phone constantly buzzing with calls she'd dodge in my presence. She'd return with inconsistent stories about her whereabouts, avoiding eye contact when I questioned her companions. I dismissed these concerns, convincing myself it was just part of the industry's demands. But an unsettling feeling persisted, a nagging doubt I couldn't dismiss. Then Hank Delaney entered the picture. He materialized one muggy summer night, emanating confidence with his imposing presence and gravelly voice. At 40, Hank had built a reputation for discovering and molding rising stars, and Lena caught his attention. He found us at a weathered bar off Broadway, sipping beers post-performance. Without invitation, he joined our table, fixing me with an assertive gaze. "You've got potential, kid," he remarked, gesturing toward my guitar case. "But she's the real moneymaker. Step back and let her take center stage while you handle the technical side." His words carried a subtle threat, but seeing Lena's enthusiastic response, I found myself unable to object. So I retreated into the shadows. I exchanged my spotlight moment for a technical chair, my guitar-worn fingers now dancing across mixing boards instead of strings. Whiskey and Rain didn't just climb charts, it soared, propelling Lena into a whirlwind of packed venues and media appearances. I continued crafting songs, each one more refined and profound, born from solitary nights while she basked in the stage lights. I'd present her with fresh lyrics, observe her practice sessions, and wrestle with an indescribable emptiness. Hank lingered constantly, his touch on her shoulder lingering uncomfortably, his laughter grating against my nerves. He'd corner me occasionally, with forced camaraderie and heavy-handed pats. "You're the foundation, Caleb," he'd declare. "She needs your behind-the-scenes support. Keep writing hits, and success will follow us all." I swallowed my discomfort and nodded, because what choice did I have? Our bills mounted endlessly. We lived in a tiny apartment with persistent leaks, and Lena's aspirations dwarfed anything I'd ever imagined. So I made my decision. I abandoned performing. My father's cherished Martin guitar found its way to a pawn shop, traded for studio equipment. I accepted a position managing sound at her concerts, my universe condensed to audio levels and control panels. The personal cost ran deeper than I admitted. From my booth, I'd watch her command the stage, my carefully crafted words flowing from her lips as if they were her own creation. The crowd chanted her name, oblivious to my emotional investment in every line. I convinced myself our partnership justified everything, even if my name remained unknown. But during quiet nights, as urban sounds filtered through our window, I'd catch her hushed phone conversations, speaking in secretive tones. When questioned, she'd flash that familiar, disarming smile. "Just Hank," she'd dismiss. "Industry matters." I'd accept it, despite my growing unease. One evening, I discovered a mysterious note tucked in her jacket, written in unfamiliar handwriting. "Meet me at the Ryman, midnight. Bring the new track." Just those words, cutting like a knife, without a signature. I avoided confrontation about it. I wasn't ready for those answers. Instead, I maintained my routine, writing, producing, feeding the system that was gradually consuming me. I was vanishing beneath her growing fame. And the most tragic part? I remained blind to those deliberately orchestrating my descent. The higher Lena's star ascended, the more I felt my foundation crumbling. But discovering that contract was the moment everything shattered beyond repair. After managing sound at her latest performance in a bustling honky-tonk on the outskirts, my fingers still tingling from the mixing board, I returned to her silent apartment. Only the refrigerator's steady drone greeted me. Lena was absent again, celebrating at some exclusive gathering I wasn't welcome to attend, her distance now a familiar wound. I dropped my keys, exhausted, when her carelessly discarded bag caught my attention, documents spilling from its open mouth like secrets demanding exposure. Something compelled me to look, perhaps that mysterious note from months ago, still haunting my thoughts, or maybe her recent evasive behavior. I reached in, and there it lay, an official contract from a prominent local label. Reading the details made my blood freeze. Whiskey and Rain, along with 3 other songs born from my soul, all attributed to Lena Carver. Sole creator. My existence? Completely erased. Not even a footnote. I stood paralyzed, the document quivering in my grasp, reality tilting sideways. Every melody, every verse I'd poured my heart into, stolen without a trace. The memories of countless nights spent crafting those pieces, my hand cramping around the pen, felt like bitter mockery. She claimed them all as her own creation. My heartbeat thundered in my skull as I frantically scanned each page, every line deepening the betrayal. Then came the telltale creak of our front door. Lena glided in, her heels echoing against the floor, trailing a mixture of expensive perfume and stale cigarettes. She halted upon seeing me, the contract clenched in my fist. A flicker of recognition crossed her face before that practiced smile emerged, smooth as polished glass. "Hey, babe," she purred, her tone deliberately casual, as if she hadn't just destroyed everything. "What V you got there?" I raised the contract, my voice barely controlled. "These songs are listed under your name, Lena. Won't tell me why?" She didn't waver. Instead, she moved closer, casually adjusting her hair like we were discussing the weather. "It's just industry strategy, Caleb. The label thinks my name carries more weight. You're still the creative force behind it all, you know that." Her explanation dripped with sweetness, but it left a bitter taste. I desperately wanted to embrace the deception, to accept her lies, but the evidence in my hands revealed the devastating truth. Sleep eluded me that night. Sprawled on the couch, I stared blankly at the ceiling, her flimsy excuse echoing in my mind. Business meeting, right? But something more sinister gnawed at my consciousness, a nagging doubt I couldn't dismiss. The following day, driven by what some might call paranoia or intuition, I decided to trail her. She'd mentioned meeting Hank at a local diner to discuss tour schedules, so I followed discreetly in my weather pickup, maintaining a safe distance. The diner, however, wasn't her destination. She veered into a parking space behind the Ryman Auditorium, the exact location mentioned in that damning note. Positioning my truck across the street, I hunched down, observing as Hank's ebony SUV approached. They remained oblivious to my presence. Lena stepped out, her laughter piercing the quiet atmosphere as she leaned toward his window. Though most of their conversation was lost to the wind, the fragments I caught were devastating. "Too gullible," she chuckled. Hank's deep voice responded. "He'll keep producing hits, and we'll keep profiting. Won't suspect anything." Nausea churned in my stomach, acid rising in my throat. This wasn't merely business. They were conspiring, mocking my ignorance like I was their personal jester. My grip on the steering wheel intensified until my knuckles blanched, the leather protesting beneath my grasp. The drive home passed in a blur, their words haunting my thoughts. Gullible, producing hits, profiting. Every composition I'd entrusted to her, every sacrifice I'd endured, wasn't for our future. It was for their gain. I stumbled into the apartment, chest constricting, and began searching frantically. I ransacked her desk, drawers, anything within reach. Then I discovered it. Beneath a pile of old performance lists lay a notebook filled with her distinctive handwriting. These weren't lyrics. This was a calculated scheme. Performance dates, financial transactions, even a detailed list of my songs with annotations about adapting them to suit her image. One particular entry froze my blood. Caleb's too emotional. Push for darker material, then I'll claim it. Hank believes it'll perform better if I present it as personal experience. I collapsed to the floor, the notebook slipping from my grasp. This wasn't coincidence. This was calculated theft, and I was their unwitting victim. My music, my essence, they dissected and exploited it all, while I remained blind to their manipulation. But their game was about to shift. Though uncertain how, I vowed there in the flickering kitchen light, they'd answer for every melody they'd stolen. After discovering that notebook, I knew a direct confrontation with Lena and Hank would be futile. They'd weave more deceptions, leaving me suffocating in their web of lies. This situation demanded something more dramatic, something they couldn't anticipate. I resolved to disappear, transforming their calculated theft into their own snare. But orchestrating a disappearance requires more finesse than simply walking away. It's a delicate dance of deception, a calculated game of shadows, and I needed to execute it flawlessly. I maintained appearances, preserving what passed for normalcy in our crumbling reality. Each morning, I prepare coffee, offering Lena a mug with a forced smile, barely meeting her gaze. She'd murmur her thanks, engrossed in her phone, undoubtedly conspiring with Hank about their next scheme. At the studio, I'd adjust her latest recordings, nodding mechanically when she prattled about upcoming performances. But beneath my composed exterior, I was like a tightly wound spring, each heartbeat marking time until my revenge. The real preparations unfolded in darkness. After Lena drifted off, her gentle snores permeating the apartment, I'd silently slip into our makeshift studio room. Behind the locked door, illuminated by a single dim lamp, I set my plan in motion. First, I needed to establish my authentic talent. I retrieved an old recorder, its case worn and scratched, emanating a subtle hiss, and connected my microphone. Though my voice felt rough from disuse, I recorded Whiskey and Rain in its entirety, raw and unfiltered. Each note felt like reclaiming my identity, a silent rebellion against their betrayal. I burned the recording onto a disc, marked it under the alias Jasper Reed, and dispatched it to a small local radio station. No explanation accompanied it, just pure music and an unspoken truth. But this was merely the beginning. To convince them of my permanent departure, I needed something dramatic. I purchased cheap red paint from a hardware store, its metallic scent reminiscent of bitter regret. In the dead of night, I crept into Lena's rehearsal studio. Opening the paint can, I immersed my hands and let it cascade across the floor. Crimson rivulets gathered beneath the microphone stand, splashing against the walls. For added effect, I shattered a spare microphone, its destruction reverberating like a gunshot through the silence. The scene suggested violence, a confrontation gone awry, leaving them scrambling for explanations. But my plan wasn't complete. I needed to vanish entirely, create an unbridgeable gap. For weeks, I've been secretly accumulating cash, hiding it meticulously in an old coffee container beneath the kitchen sink. Small denominations only, impossible to track. Using a disposable phone purchased at a local gas station, I booked a one-way bus ticket online to an obscure Montana town. The night of my departure, I traveled light. Just a backpack containing essential clothes, the recorder, and my weather harmonica, a piece of my soul I couldn't abandon. I took a final glance at the apartment, the crimson paint still glistening in the studio, before stepping out. Nashville's streets pulsed with neon lights and music, but I remained inconspicuous, hood drawn tight, until reaching the Greyhound terminal. The bus interior carried the mingled scents of old coffee and exhaust fumes, its seats threadbare from countless journeys. I claimed a spot near the rear, watching the city lights dissolve into darkness as we headed northward. As hours passed, urban landscapes transformed into vast prairies and towering mountains, the air turning crisp through the bus's cracked window. My destination was a tiny settlement called Elk Hollow, with its historic cobblestone roads and quaint diners. I discovered an online listing for a cabin rental, cash-based, no documentation required. Upon arrival, I was greeted by Mara Tillman, roughly 30, sporting cropped dark hair and penetrating eyes that assessed me swiftly. "You must be Jasper," she said, her tone friendly yet cautious. I confirmed with a practiced smile. "That's me." She provided a key, indicated a wooden cabin along the path, and left me alone. The structure was compact, with rustic walls and a weathered veranda, but it felt impenetrable. I released my bag, collapsed onto a squeaking bed, and embraced the silence. Finally, after endless months, I could inhale freely. Yet danger still lurked. I'd installed an inexpensive webcam in my Nashville studio, concealed in a corner, streaming to a remote cloud account. Opening my laptop, its screen illuminating the darkness, I accessed the feed. The paint-splattered floor and broken microphone remained undisturbed. Though Lena and Hank hadn't discovered it yet, their investigation would begin soon. Questions would arise about my whereabouts and the incident's nature. I reclined, allowing myself a subtle smirk. Let them panic. Let them scramble for answers. I'd planted the seeds of doubt, and now I'd witnessed their desperate struggle against an approaching tempest. However, an unsettling thought nagged at me, lurking in my consciousness. Perhaps they weren't mere thieves. Maybe their scheme ran deeper, darker. I attempted to dismiss the notion, but it persisted, settling like ice in my stomach. This saga wasn't concluded. Far from it. I'd been holed up in Elk Hollow's cabin for 3 days when the first fracture appeared in their carefully constructed world. The webcam feed served as my digital window to Nashville, a pixelated connection I monitored each morning while sipping bitter black coffee. On that third day, she appeared. Lena burst into the studio like a whirlwind, her disheveled hair matching her frantic eyes that darted around like prey sensing danger. She halted abruptly on the paint-marred floor, her trembling hand covering her mouth. The crimson streaks had darkened to a rusty shade, the damaged microphone lying askew amidst the chaos. She whirled around, shouting inaudibly, her features contorted with fear. Then Hank's imposing figure filled the frame, his expression taut with tension. They gestured wildly, arguing and pointing at the destruction I'd orchestrated. I inched closer to my screen, feeling my heartbeat accelerate. The trap was set, and they were falling right into it. But the ensuing chaos exceeded even my wildest expectations. Later that day, I switched on the cabin's vintage radio, its crooked antenna and crackling static reminiscent of distant thunder. While scanning through the interference, I caught something unexpected. A DJ's enthusiastic voice pierced through the white noise. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've got ourselves a mystery. An anonymous demo just landed here. Someone calling themselves Jasper Reed performing Whiskey in Rain. Sounds mighty familiar to Lena Carver's hit, wouldn't you say? But this version's got an authenticity her recording never captured. Have a listen." My raw vocals filled the small space, unpolished and genuine, as the secretly recorded chords resonated through the airwaves. The DJ returned, amused. "Now, we're not making accusations about Lena, but this Jasper character's got people talking. Our phone lines are exploding. What's your take?" I lower my coffee mug with unsteady hands. My truth was finally emerging, clawing its way into public consciousness. The rapid spread surprised me, but by sunset, social media was ablaze. Comments multiplied, with fans debating fiercely, some claiming they'd witnessed me perform it years ago in obscure bars, others dismissing it as fabrication. Regardless, the seed of doubt was firmly planted, and its thorny tendrils were spreading fast. Back in Nashville, tensions escalated rapidly. Through the webcam's dim feed that night, I observed the studio where only a solitary lamp cast shadows. Lena paced restlessly, clutching her phone, her fingers anxiously running through her hair. Hank remained motionless in his chair, his vacant stare fixed on the floor, like someone haunted by unspeakable visions. The sudden entrance of 2 police officers shattered the silence, their badges catching the sparse light. My heart skipped. This was more than routine questioning. One officer raised a familiar object, my notebook, deliberately abandoned on the mixing console before my hasty departure. I'd crafted it carefully, filling pages with fabricated entries describing Lena and Hank's supposed conspiracy against me, suggesting their desperation to silence me. If something happens to me, examine their hands, I'd scrawled on the final page, strategically smearing red paint for dramatic effect. The officers studied each page intently, their expressions stern, while Lena's silent protests grew increasingly desperate. Hank rose, gesturing emphatically, but their skepticism remained unmoved. I smiled coldly, satisfaction coursing through me. They discovered my carefully laid trap, and it was working perfectly. The following morning, everything exploded. My laptop, programmed to monitor news feeds, revealed the story plastered across every local music outlet. Lena Carver under fire. Mystery singer sparks plagiarism claims. The radio demo had spread like wildfire, and police involvement only fueled speculation. Fan support crumbled swiftly, transforming into venomous accusations. On my burner phone, I scrolled through countless comments, each one striking at her reputation. Everything's stolen, someone declared. Another speculated, she probably killed Jasper to hide the truth. That paint? Definitely blood. I chuckled darkly, watching my fabricated narrative take root. Lena attempted damage control, hosting a press conference under unforgiving lights, her voice unsteady as she defended her authenticity. Many artists influenced my work, she claimed through smear mascara. This is all a terrible mistake. But the audience remained hostile. A shout of "Where's Jasper?" ignited chaos. She retreated hastily, head bowed, pursued by relentless cameras. Then law enforcement descended on Hank. They stormed his upscale downtown condominium, discovering something unexpected, evidence I hadn't orchestrated. Inside a duffel bag, they found coils of rope, industrial duct tape, and a partially consumed bottle of bleach. My heart sank as the headline flashed across my screen. Manager linked to Carver scandal found with suspicious items. Had I underestimated their sinister intentions? Was their scheme darker than mere musical theft? The realization struck me with Arctic intensity, chilling and disturbing. I'd aimed to make them uncomfortable, but this revelation suggested something more malevolent. From my Montana hideout, I watched the surveillance feed again, the night pressing against my windows. Lena remained alone, collapsed on the studio floor, weeping uncontrollably. Hank was presumably in custody. Their carefully constructed empire was disintegrating systematically, and I'd initiated the collapse. Yet one question persisted, haunting my thoughts. What other secrets lay buried? What forces had I truly unleashed? Time would reveal all. This was merely the calm before the tempest. I'd been observing their world crumble from my secluded Montana hideaway for 7 days when I realized it was time to dive back into the chaos. Through the webcam, I watched Lena falling apart, her carefully constructed life now a mess of sorrow and news stories, while Hank languished in prison, his arrogant smile nowhere to be seen. My revelation had ripped through Nashville like a hurricane, and though law enforcement was closing in, I wasn't finished yet. I needed to confront her, make her confess everything. So I orchestrated my comeback. First, I deliberately injured myself, using a stone to strike my arm until bruises spread across my flesh, then covered my face with grime to make my story convincing. I boarded a bus heading back, the engine's vibrations echoing the turmoil within me. Upon entering the Nashville police station, the officer at reception stared at my battered appearance. I fabricated a story about Hank attacking me, claiming I'd been in hiding, too terrified to report it. They accepted my story, took notes, and released me with instructions to remain available. Phase 1 done. I made my way directly to our place, the atmosphere heavy with memories of what once was. The unlocked door swung open with an eerie squeak. There was Lena, hunched over at the kitchen table, nursing a bourbon bottle that was half gone. When she looked up, momentary relief crossed her expression. "Caleb, thank God," she stammered, lurching in my direction. "Where have you been? I thought you were dead." She reached out toward me, but I retreated, allowing an uncomfortable silence to build. Her gaze traced my injuries, bewilderment distorting her face. "Everything's fuzzy," I muttered, keeping my voice tremulous and uncertain, maintaining her suspense. "Hank grabbed me, said someone wanted me eliminated. Wouldn't say who. Pretty sure he knocked me unconscious." She stopped moving, her breathing faltered, and I caught it. That glimpse of terror, the kind that surfaces when you're trapped in an inescapable deception. "Hank," she murmured, her voice breaking. Why would he do something like that? I moved closer, near enough to detect the alcohol on her breath. You tell me, Lena. You two were inseparable. Or were you plotting? She retreated, her hands quivering uncontrollably as I revealed my hidden weapon, the ace up my sleeve. With calculated precision, I produced the contract I'd secretly obtained months earlier, the damning document that proved she'd claimed my songs as her own, and slammed it onto the table. The color drained from her face instantly. This, I declared, my voice unwavering and cold, is proof of your theft. Everything. Her trembling fingers reached toward the paper. Caleb, please understand, this wasn't supposed to happen like this. I just wanted success for both of us. A harsh laugh escaped my throat. Both of us? Don't lie. You mean yourself. You and Hank hijacked my entire life. Her gaze darted nervously between the floor and my face, silently begging. Your talent terrified me, she confessed quietly. You're incredible, Caleb. Too incredible. I couldn't bear watching you leave me in the dust. I advanced toward her, my imposing shadow engulfing her form. And this piece of evidence? I tossed a USB drive beside the contract, my original radio demo. The truth is public knowledge now. She collapsed into a nearby chair, burying her face in her hands, but I wasn't done yet. One final question, I growled, my voice dropping menacingly. I remember who ordered Hank to eliminate me. It was you, wasn't it? Her head jerked upward, pure fear flooding her eyes. No, I swear I never. She began desperately, but I interrupted. Save your lies. Law enforcement has enough evidence to destroy you both. The following day, I forced her to face a press conference. She stood beneath the harsh camera lights, her appearance disheveled, makeup streaked from an entire night of tears. From my front row seat, I watched her unravel, arms crossed. I apologize, she barely whispered. Whiskey and Rain, and all the other songs, they belonged to Caleb Warwick. I took the credit. I lied about everything. Chaos erupted as reporters shouted questions, camera flashes exploding like gunshots. She revealed Hank's involvement too, admitted he'd pressured her to silence me, though she insisted violence wasn't her intention. The media frenzy intensified, sensing her downfall. As she fled the stage, her empire crumbling, our eyes met briefly. I felt a hollow satisfaction settle in my chest. She performed her final song under my identity. The aftermath unfolded gradually. Hank received a 3-year sentence for assault, reduced by his expensive legal team, but his music industry reputation was irreparably shattered. Lena's empire disintegrated completely, her record label severed ties, and her once devoted fan base abandoned her. She vanished from Nashville's spotlight, becoming nothing more than a cautionary whisper in music circles. As for me, I emerged stronger, securing a contract under my authentic identity, Caleb Warwick. My performances resumed, and slowly, my voice rediscovered its true power and purpose. Unexpectedly, Mara, the compassionate soul from Montana, entered my life. Her visits became more frequent, her unwavering support healing wounds I hadn't acknowledged. We've built a genuine relationship, far removed from the web of deception that once ensnared me. This ordeal taught me a profound lesson. Deception is a double-edged sword, destroying not just its targets, but consuming the deceivers themselves. Lena and Hank's attempt to steal my identity backfired, drowning them in their own treachery. I stand today, bearing scars, but unbroken, having reclaimed what was rightfully mine. Remember, folks, trust is as delicate as a guitar string. Once broken, you face the lonely task of rebuilding alone. And that concludes our journey. How did this ending resonate with you? Share your thoughts below. If this story touched you, hit that like button and subscribe for more compelling narratives. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for the next adventure.